Listen, this idea of toxic masculinity, do you think that is real?
I think it is real.
Do you have a definition that you want to share of like what it is? Because in order to say it's real means that it exists, and it means that you have a way to identify it.
I mean, for me personally, with toxic masculinity, it's the essence of not being able to tap into your emotions and have them come out. Like she said with like young man said with the example, when he got a cut, he was told not to cry. I don't think that should be a gender lens around a cut. Like, if you get a cut and you cry, that's human nature. Shit hurt. Why are we addressing it to regardless of what your gender is, should you cry or should you not? I think for me, when I hear toxic masculinity, I think of my cousins in Alabama. We would go to our grandma's house. I was the tomboy of my family, where you had the one cousin that was on the phone with her boyfriend, the other cousin that was, in her book. I wanted to go play with my male cousins. And even when I would play with my male cousins, I would notice that they could do certain things that I couldn't do, but they also couldn't express their emotions in the way that I could. So I think when you have that upbringing, when you're not able to express your emotions in a healthy manner without it being some type of other barrier in place, that breeds toxic masculinity.
So toxic masculinity, just let me just summarize it, is men not being able to show emotions.
Yeah, to me. That's
Okay.
one piece of it. I feel like there's other pieces that I currently can't. I don't feel like I could properly articulate to what I want it to be. But that's one piece of it.
So 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 1 statement, 1 question. I just want to be clear and coherent when I say this. There is nothing toxic about masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that phrase right there is where I feel like people use the term toxic masculinity, and it's for anything that's masculine. The way that you just described it, okay, cool. You can define it as being toxic masculinity. We could take your definition and roll with it. But I think the problem that I have when people use the term toxic masculinity is that they are assuming that masculinity is inherently toxic.
I don't think so. I think it's just a characteristic in relation to being feminine or masculine where they use that piece. Not drawing that everything masculine is toxic.
So the thing is like, even the way that you describe it, I don't think that is toxic. I think it's a component of masculinity that should be taught, because y'all don't respect an emotional dude in the dating game. You don't respect it at all.
I don't think it's a disrespect. I think it's because we don't have the upbringing to actually know how to
So what if y'all
address
enable
it?
But if women enable, the men are not supposed to cry. And that's how we are taught.
I mean, I'm fine with men crying. If a man, like, if he comes to me and he got an issue and he crying, I'm not gonna say, you better stop bitching and crying. I'm gonna be a friend and be like, yo, what's going on? How can I support you during this time? I'm not gonna shut off those emotions. Society has this where as soon as a man has a little bit of emotions come up, shut it down.
But here's the thing. A man displaying emotions in a dating relationship
is sexy. For me. It is.
Let's put some examples.
Okay.
This is, you call him,
Mm-hmm.
he calls you back.
Mm-hmm.
2 hours later, he calls you back.
Mm-hmm.
He texts you.
Mm-hmm.
And 30 minutes later, and then he texts you again 45 minutes later after that. Where are you? I miss you. What's going on? Is there a problem between us?
Mm-hmm.
Those are emotional characteristics within a man that I feel like he should never elicit. That's an emotional dude.
Mm-hmm. But I think
does that attract you?
I think between the two people, then you do have to have the discussion first of, okay, what's going on? Why are you feeling this way? Let me tell you my methods of communication.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're hitting me up constantly, but if you don't know me, I have to let you know, like, hey, that constant back and forth stuff personally doesn't work for me. I can do a 1 or 2 text message or call here and there, but the repetitive nature, how can we find common ground from there? Because although he may be an emotional individual, there's still an opportunity for both of us to find that solution to whatever we see as an issue.
You will never select him over a much more logical and measured man. And the reason is because...
But where he at?
See. But here's the thing, as we talked about before, is that you as a Christian woman, you respect the idea of a head of household, and understanding that you want someone around you that you can nurture, that can make the best decisions for you and the family. And someone that's in their emotions, that's within their feminine energy, cannot make...
What's wrong with being in your feminine energy?
Well, feminine energy, you guys are much more centered within your emotions, as opposed to men are much more centered in truth, logic, facts, as opposed to women are much more centered in feelings, emotions, and nurturing.
But why can't men be centered in their emotions?
I think that man has to have empathy in order to understand the emotions that are going around him. But I feel like a man, as being a pillar of a household, being the protector, being the provider, and the things that go along with those characteristics, there has to be a concrete grounding in how can I make the best decisions without having human nature impact my decision making.
But where's the empathy involved in that?
Well, it's because you have to have an understanding of emotions around you. You have to understand that your wife is going through the emotional turmoil of having a baby.
But most don't. A good amount don't.
But we're not talking about the most right now. We're talking about the definitions between, right, and understanding the this, that. So I get it. You can pull in anecdotal examples to objective definitions, but I don't. But I think that it mires the conversation. It throws in smoke screens and bombs that doesn't really get back to the general question of.
What was the question?
As a man, as a woman, you want much more of a logical, measured, and rational man. Because, like you said, where they at though? Than an emotional, feelings-based man. So I bring it up to that there's an idea of that you said toxic. It's toxic masculinity if they're in their emotions. But what I'm trying to say to you, you don't want an emotional man.
Yeah, you know what I want.
You're deflecting. You're deflecting. I'm hearing you with goddamn nuggets right now, and you're just...
And I'm taking them in. I promise I'm taking them in. It is some information to consider, but I still also have certain other thoughts. But I know that we are going long as hell with this video.
I'm going to make this into 2 parts.
So,
you want to get back in?
Let's get back in.
I think I hit you with something right there. I need you to sit back and think about it. Maybe come back in a separate video. Let's attack it. Okay?
Let's attack it.
I feel like
What'd you do?
I feel like you're like, he might be making sense.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
But also know that I don't disagree with you. I am taking the information in, but I still think there are perspectives you're not considering.
Okay. You want to bring up those perspectives? You want to keep going?
Let's keep going.
Okay.
Said before.
I don't think showing emotions is a sign of weakness. I actually think it's a sign of strength. Men do live shorter lives, and that's because of a repression of emotions, and that's due to many things that patriarchy has instilled.
Repression of emotions.
It has been shown that a person's well-being, their lifespan is shortened when they are not able to express their emotions. In addition, when they don't have physical touch or when they don't have a partner to keep them company. We are human beings here. We need to talk to each other. And if you think that our health isn't affected when you're not able to express that you are sad or upset, you're wrong.
Oh, shit. Go ahead. You got something to say?
I was just saying, they will see this video as well, right?
Yeah.
Well, basically, I'll summarize an event that they don't. You did say yes. Did you see how all the guys shut down as soon as she said patriarchy? They, for whatever reason, as soon as they hear that, they automatically shut down. That's something that needs to be addressed. Like, why do men shut down as soon as a woman says statements like how in patriarchy is involved with the fact that you don't like the sense of touch, or you don't know what to do with the sense of touch, or how to really control communicate your emotions.
I interpret that a little bit differently. I saw them shut down when she said that men don't live as long when they don't experience touch, which just sounds like fluffy bullshit.
I don't think
That's the reason why I was shut down in that conversation. I think that that's just fluffy. Yeah, it sounds good, but I don't think that that's actually true.
So do you think that men will live longer without touch or with touch?
I don't think it fucking matters.
I think it does.
Touch? Why would it make me live longer?
Because it's a human need for touch. Everyone needs a little touch here and there, whether it's from...
It's not food.
It's not food.
It's not water. How it gonna make me live longer?
I think it's because it connects to you internally.
I don't connect.
Exactly.
I'm a man.
Y'all don't connect. Exactly. When you are in such a shelter, not a shelter, but such a wall-driven, resistant life, that hurts you internally. That may decrease your life expectancy.
They have a hold on your mind.
They don't have a hold on my mind.
It's just...
I'll admit, I'm very energetic, emotional, empathetic person, but I also realize when I encounter a person that has that wall of resistance up where they don't want touch or understand what to even do with it, that means there needs to be some conversations had that man hasn't yet found somebody that he feel is safe enough to have those conversations with.
I guarantee you it won't hurt his life expectancy
I think
because
it will.
he lives life like that.
I think it will.
Okay.
Personally. Everybody need a little touch.
I think that men's rights activists are only men's rights activists as a response to women expressing that they want more equality. I don't think they focus on actual men's rights issues, and rather it's just an attack on women and feminism.
Today, women have more advantages than men.
I can speak from a hiring standpoint when it comes to things like affirmative action, and there are certain roles that traditionally men and women have been able to serve in, and now women can basically do all of those things, right? Because we've had such a strong advocacy for...
Just real quick, women receive more benefits from affirmative actions than black people do.
And what are those?
All of the benefits of affirmative action.
I need 3 examples.
Do you know what affirmative action is?
Still, I want you to give me some examples.
That is the example, affirmative action. In and in itself, to say that white women have benefited more in aggregate from a numbers perspective.
Keyword though, white women. What about the other women? Do we have those same benefits? No, we don't. Just
Women, in general, have benefited more. What are you arguing here? What are you arguing?
I'm just arguing at the moment.
This is the problem.
If I have to consider what I wear before stepping out the house because I don't want to draw some type of attention, I don't know how many other men have to consider, is this outfit going to be deemed safe for me? Any situation that I have experienced where like I physically felt endangered simply because I don't want to give my number out. It's part of that entitlement for men. You're not entitled a conversation with me. You're not entitled to my number.
That aside, it's like, are you gonna make one example of the entitlement of men when it comes to asking for your number be the all-encompassing thing that all men have a problem when it comes to approaching women?
Well, firstly, it's not just an example. It's not necessarily all men. I don't dislike men. I love sports, I play video games, I have bros, I hang out with dudes. We just want men to realize that if you have friends that are having locker room talk, as a man, as an ally, please say something to your friends.
Do you think repressing that is really the solution here, though? If it's in a healthy male space...
I don't think that's healthy. I think it's
Well,
toxic in itself.
I mean, if you're making jokes and you're doing all of that...
This is such bullshit. Locker room talk?
What exactly is a healthy male space?
Listen, women have locker room talk. Y'all talk savagely about us. What are they even talking about? This is the problem that I have when conversations like this, is because you get like this one-sided, emotional, unrealistic expectation that people are trying to put on the conversation. Everyone has locker room talk. It's not a male-dominated thing.
Agreed, but there are some factors to consider. One, your locker room talk is a little bit probably more savager than ours.
I disagree wholeheartedly.
How so and why?
Y'all are just as savage as we are. You're just more secretive about it. But when y'all get in y'all group of y'all girls, y'all talk about the male part just as much as we talk about the woman part.
It's a possibility. I'm just saying, it's a possibility.
Yeah, I know. What are you talking about? Like, what you mean it's a possibility? It's true.
I'm trying to also formulate my thought.
So anyway, my man's point is, would that really help? The answer is no.
I think it would. Because I feel like in girl spaces, when a girl gets too rowdy with her statement, a girl will call her out and be like, yo, that's too far. I honestly think, at least in my spaces, I've seen that. Versus in men, they will go on and talk dirty about a girl, how she's this, how she's that. I mean, going crazy, talking crazy about her. And I personally haven't encountered a situation where there was one guy that said, yo, we cool with her. Stop that. Me personally.
This locker room talk one is a weird one because, again, we both do that. We both do it. Both sexes do it. And we both do it a lot. But this conversation about toxic masculinity. So if we both do it, is that toxic femininity when women do it?
No, because ours isn't even really considered.
What do you mean?
Like, what we say and the things that we do, that may be in relation to you guys, it's not really considered and it doesn't really affect y'all. Versus the things that y'all do, at some point it does affect us.
Well, that's not fair then.
Exactly. That's not my fault that it's
Wait,
not fair.
what do you mean it affects y'all but not affects us?
Like, let's say, for example, this thing with our current administration where he's talking about grabbing them by the vagina, X, Y, and Z. That affects us because because we as women look at that and be like, our current commander-in-chief has no problem with grabbing women by their vagina. Versus if a woman would have said like, oh, grab her by the dick, guys from 9 times out of 10 is going to laugh at that and see it as a joke.
So you think in Trump saying that locker room talk, that it negatively impacts women because how?
Because we are continuously seen as a joke. Unlike you guys, it's not.
Okay, and then seeing you as a joke is now impacting you in what way?
Because you're not seeing me as a real person or a full person to take care of myself or handle my responsibilities. If you have that lens of you always either have to take care of me or you see me in second person, regardless if I make a tough statement or a nasty statement, it's laughed off at.
So the only key difference between what Trump said and what dudes say is that Trump is a public figure.
No, not necessarily.
What's any other difference besides him being a public figure and saying that exact same sentence?
Because I promise you, if a guy that is in LA Fitness gym right now, he says that same stuff with his homeboys.
Yeah, but
we're still seen as an object.
But again, women do the exact same thing.
We do, but at the same time, if we do it, y'all are still seen as deemed as a human being in those conversations. We aren't.
What?
Yes.
I'm so confused because we're saying women do the exact same thing that men do, but according to you, it's way more serious. I don't think that that's fair. I don't think that actually makes a lot of sense.
But I think there's still a conversation needs to be had around that locker room talk in general to see how both sexes could find a solution in that.
I think free speech should not be limited in the United States unless it is something that is illegal. If it's illegal, pedophilia, stuff like that, limit that stuff. But I think that there's a degree of free speech that should always be allowed in America because it's our constitutional right. I understand what you're saying. There's an idea that when men say it, it's way more impactful than when women say it. I understand what you say, but I don't think it's fair to just say when women do it, it doesn't mean as much.
But still, what I'm saying is when it's not mean as much, I say it's not mean as much in a societal view.
Okay.
Like, again, if a woman says something, like she says something crazy,
which happens all the time. I was walking down the street the other day, and I got a, hey! And I turn around like,
but 9 times out of 10 is that woman gonna
I'm just
kill you?
going to work. Leave me alone.
But 9 times out of 10 is that woman gonna
It's 9 times out of 10 is that man gonna kill you.
It's a possibility.
Oh my,
There are how many black...
I'm asking the exact same question to you.
I hear you, but how many black women, or even women in general, are missing? How many women get shot or murdered because they reject a man's request for him wanting to advance on her?
Here's the problem when we have conversations based in feelings versus data. So when you say 9 times out of 10, will a woman do that to a man? And then I say, but 9 times out of 10, will a man do that to a woman? It's both the same number. It's both equal, relatively. It's not that different.
The woman's not going to commit murder versus a man will because he feels threatened by his manhood.
Why are you thinking the man will murder? That's
a possibility because his manhood is threatened.
Listen, I want you to get more on the camera. I think undoubtedly a woman needs to be a little bit more cautious because she's smaller than men. So when it's happening, you have to consider like who the crazy people are. I understand. I think that's where you were trying to go, but to just assume that a man's gonna murder a woman because...
I don't think it's an assumption though that I'm trying to make. I promise I'm not making an assumption. All I'm saying is versus the data that has been shown, when women makes a pass towards a man and we get rejected, we keep on going. If a man makes a pass towards a woman and she don't want him, he now feels threatened. So he's either gonna call her a bitch, out her name, or there's some that go to the extent of causing her harm.
I think that there's some weak men that do that when their egos are impacted. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. And generally, you see the ego thing happening more with men than women.
Mm-hmm.
But we were talking about murder, which is different.
There's a lot of murders going on though.
Okay. All right.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of murders going on.
You're a bush beater. You beat around the bush like a les around the tush.
Am I now?
Yes.
I don't agree with that.
Here's the thing. I give a point and you give me an outlier. I give a point, you give me an outlier. Or we compare data and I'm saying, but it's the same thing for women. And you can't disagree. I mean, talk to me, girl. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. But that's also my personality trait.
I know. I get it. I get it. All right, we want to keep going one more time. Because there's only so much more we could do in this shit.
I feel that the other side does not understand my values.
I think a lot of times when a movement is created, the other side thinks that they're being attacked or think that it's some like attempt at erasure. That's not what feminism is about at all. What do you need a whole men's rights activism movement for? I'm sincerely confused.
Well, I mean, like, I will advocate for positive masculinity and what men should represent and healthy outlets for men. Like, I still think the Boy Scouts should be exclusively the Boy Scouts, for example, one of those things. Where I would like to think that we could get some common ground is when it comes to the clear biases that are in the court system, especially in the marriage and family court system, right? And right there is what I would advocate for when it comes to men's rights.
The things that stand valid, like that I'm hearing from y'all that are like valid to me, come from a place of like, I'm treated like unfairly by the system. Versus a lot of the things women are saying, it's also America and the system as well, but a lot of it is like harm from men.
How and where?
How and where what?
Where's this harm from men coming from?
Okay, it started when I was young. I'm not gonna talk too long. I was 16, got a bottle thrown at me because I told a boy no. It started when I was in a club, a boy touched me, I said no, he kept touching me, it got to the point he got violent. It gets to the point that the only reason why a man decided to stop touching me in the bookstore I talked about earlier is because he realized my husband was not too far away. And he said, sorry bro, never said sorry to me. That's why, and that's off the top of my head. This is why I get upset, because I'm like, I'm here to talk about like, how you feel, but when you just dismiss the fact that women actually have experiences, that's when it seems like it's about more than your rights. It seems like it's about your ego.
He didn't dismiss you. He said how and why. Am I tripping? Unless that's some like interesting editing that they did, all he said was how and why.
But I think because she had provided some form of examples in her statement, he did not look at them and just said, still again, how and why. It's almost like he missed her point.
No. He said how and why, and then she did a whole diatribe of different examples. And then she said at the end of the diatribe that this is why I can't have these conversations because y'all just dismiss what we're saying. He just said how and why. And then...
I think you're simplifying his statement a little more. I still feel like he didn't fully hear what she was saying.
She didn't say anything until he asked how and why.
I think because her statements went to a whole other level, though.
Right, but but he wasn't dismissing her. He just asked for examples, how and why. You think he was dismissing?
I think him, out of all people, are trying to attempt to understand what he's saying while still having his agenda up.
I think asking how and why is the first base of figuring out the other side's position.
But do you honestly think he was coming from a place to actually hear what she has to say, or just be able to counteract whatever next statement she's about to say?
Well, let's find out. Let's see what he says.
Okay.
And that's where I get pissed off,
At
because
no
how
point-
dare you tell another human being that their experiences, what they're telling you right in front of your face, is not valid.
I didn't say they were invalid. I said how and why. I'm trying to understand.
How and why?
listen.
Because it happened. It happened many times. It happened yesterday. It happened.
He's trying to understand. This is the problem. We can't have these conversations because it's like we're being dismissive. We can't ask for examples because you feel like you're being challenged.
But I think it's not the part of being challenged. It's for you all, you bring questions that have that lack of understanding behind it.
Who is you all? He said how and why.
Men in general, when
He
they
said,
make statements.
no. Talk about him. He said
Okay,
how
so
and
I'm
why.
talking about him. He said how and why. Was he looking for examples? Yes, but I still think because of the way he asked that question, it did come off a little dismissive.
How should he have asked? What would be a better way from your perspective?
I mean, I feel like it goes deeper because for men with this type of conversation, you all are looking for data points and facts without emotion. And as soon as you see a hint of emotion, you do not take into consideration the things that we just said because you saw emotion there. Like if I bring a data point and I have some emotion behind it, there's been times guys have been like, oh, you're just emotional. You didn't hear a word I just said.
He said how and why before she got emotional.
Then she was already emotional.
No, she got emotional when she started talking about her personal experiences of toxic masculinity. Mm-hmm. That's when she got emotional.
Mm-hmm. I still think I don't know exactly what it could have been, but I think...
Is it because he's a man that you can't understand his position?
I don't think it's because he's a man. I think that because of his lack of emotion behind the questions, it almost gave off like he wasn't really still coming in a form of empathy or trying to understand her point. Like, okay,
so how long should he have asked?
I don't know at this point.
Okay.
Because I think it's still... you have to bring up the conversation still how men view emotion.
I don't think that there was a better way to ask. I think it was a very, how and why. It was a very, hey, do you have any examples? Like, I thought it was a great way to understand more, and she took it to a dismissiveness that I don't think that he showed. I mean, there's ways to be dismissive.
I also think especially because she's the only black woman there, I think there are some... This is making an assumption there may be some trauma involved to where that question may have been asked, and there have been instances where people have asked that question and necessarily wasn't trying to come from a place of understanding, which may have caused her to go to that description with more emotion. And of course now he's like, wait a minute, what? But I think because he's not, as a men's activist, not understanding the trauma that's behind why there is a feminist movement, why he's not understanding her reaction.
I don't think that there was anything to understand. He said how and why, and then she answered. And then he said...
Did you even catch yourself right now? You were about to say that she got emotional.
She did.
But we're explaining things, we're gonna be a little emotional.
And she called him dismissive, which he wasn't. And then he said, but I'm just trying to understand.
Okay. I want to see some more of the video.
Okay, I think some of the things that you guys are touching on, such as the court system and gender roles, are a subject of patriarchy, and that's part of what women are trying to dismantle, is those traditional gender roles.
Are there any feminist organizations that have done anything, for example, to challenge bias against men and fathers in the family court system?
Absolutely.
Can you please give me a list of feminist advocacy organizations that have engaged in any meaningful advocacy to address those issues? Because there are actually none.
Okay. I know that you came with your little research or whatever. I didn't come with a list of feminist organizations, but I know actively that there are women's organizations that are trying to dismantle those inequalities.
Now that's how you be dismissive. That is being dismissive. That was disgusting. Mm-hmm. That was gross. Mm-hmm. That was dismissiveness. That wasn't her saying how and why. That was, I know you came in here with your little facts and data, but let me just dismiss what you have to say by not acknowledging your statement and diminishing your point.
I think that she acknowledged his statement. I don't think it was as dismissive as it may have appeared to be to you. Again, I think because this conversation, I have various thoughts that I feel like I'm not able to fully articulate, but I think
Get in there, girl.
I know, I'm trying. The first one is, I don't think this conversation was even approached while setting the right foundation to have a proper discussion like this. I think because you already have two people that are coming with their own agenda, how they're possibly not able to listen to each other, I think we first have to establish some form of common ground as to why we are here and why we want to be here. And then I feel like we can really dive into the why is this and how is that. But when you start a conversation where it's just, why is this, and people are already resistant, you're not going to find common ground. But that's just me with the way this video and this conversation is being held.
I feel like it's ridiculously ironic that we just had a conversation about dismissiveness, but the feminist side, at least that one young lady, just dismissed his very real question.
I don't think it was dismissive because of his attitude with it. Like,
he said, "Can you give me an example of a feminist movement helping this?" And she said, "I didn't come in here with facts and data." "Oh, I know you did." It was so dismissive.
I don't think she was dismissive of him. I think she was she reacting to his question? Yes, but I don't see it as being dismissive.
Holy moly. It was the definition of dismissive.
I don't think it was the definition of dismissive.
What women are trying to dismantle is those traditional gender roles.
Are there any feminist organizations that have done anything, for example, to challenge bias against men and fathers in the family court system?
Absolutely.
Can you please give me a list of feminist advocacy organizations that have engaged in any meaningful advocacy to address those issues? Because there are actually none.
Okay. I know that you came with your little research or whatever. I didn't come with a list of feminist organizations, but I know actively that there are women.
Your little research or whatever. And then as she says that, the black woman laughs.
Anything, for example, to challenge bias against men and fathers in the family court system?
Absolutely.
Can you please give me a list of feminist advocacy organizations that have engaged in any meaningful advocacy to address those issues? Because there are actually none.
Okay. I know that you came with your little research or whatever. I didn't come.
Stop replaying it. I get it. I know. I saw she laughed, and I get it.
That's dismissiveness. You don't think that's dismissiveness?
I feel like
you just won't agree to anything.
I don't want to agree. No, because I don't want you to feel like I'm disagreeing with anything that you say. But I think because there are certain levels to this that we're not addressing, it's not as simple as, that's dismissive.
I think that, and I know this going in, I feel like you identify with the feminist movement a lot. So I feel like you're going to conform to, you're going to be biased on whatever they say. That if someone did that to me, I'd be like, bitch, I can't talk to you no more. We're not cool. We're not friends. I know you came in here with your little research or whatever. Come on. They got your whole girl laughing at me behind you. That's so dismissive. Okay. Well, listen. Fuck this video.
Okay.
I can't do this video no more.
I feel like there are so many layers to this video that aren't being addressed.
This is a great video to do.
I hate this video.
Thank you so much for suggesting it. We gotta make this into 2 or 3 parts. All right, I feel like it was a fantastic conversation. I want you to send it to your homegirls. We're sending it to your homegirls.
Because I don't think I did my women right in this discussion. I think
it's because when you're not in an echo chamber, when you're not having everyone applaud and congratulate you.
Who's applauding and congratulating you?
No, not me. I'm saying when you're in an echo chamber of people who believe in the same exact things, you're not challenged. But when you bring it out to 2 opposing views, right, and you have an opportunity to be able to challenge each other and do it in a way where we're trying to come to the truth. Because I don't know all the answers. You don't know all the answers. Mm-hmm. But through clear conversations, we're trying to bubble up what's the most true for us as we try to push the culture forward.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you that. I got more research and work to do. I will admit that.
Questions, comments, concerns? Thank you so much for the video suggestion. Mediocre tutorials and reviews at gmail.com. Until next time. Ashley, thank you so much again for coming through. We gotta do another one.
We gotta do another one.
We gotta do another one. We're gonna get some refills.
We will.
We're gonna take a second.
Okay.
All right? We're gonna take a second. We're gonna come back in here. We're gonna do another one, okay?
Okay.
You got time?
I got time.
She got time. Until next time, you two. Pardon my masculinity.
His masculinity.
Peace! Oh, it's strong. It's strong, girl.